Hey, hey, my feel good friend, and welcome to the Feel Good Social podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and you know what I'm going to say. I'm so happy to be in your earbuds, as always, my friend. Thank you so much for tuning in to this little show. And today I'm super excited because I have a special treat for you. I last week actually gave a live workshop with my friend Gina from Babe Crafted, a membership that I am a proud member of. And we basically chatted all about how to map out your monthly content, right? I shared tips for how to make social media less overwhelming, the difference between different types of content pillars and how you can mix and match them for your brand. We chat about social media strategy, what type of content performs the best, and how to create a content plan that works for you. And it was just such a great talk that I actually asked Gina if I could reshare the replay of our chat on the podcast, and she graciously agreed. So today I am sharing a replay of the live chat that I had with Gina that's super, super actionable and super, super awesome. I really hope that you enjoy this. And if you do, make sure you connect with both of us on Instagram. I'm at Feel Good Social. Gina is at Babe Crafted. We would both love to chat with you, connect with you, give you follows back, all that stuff. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right into this live chat replay of how to map out your monthly content like a boss. Hey friend, and welcome to the Feel Good Social podcast. I'm your host, Kinsey, and I'm here to help you market your business in a genuine way that works without wasting your precious time. On this show, we chat about social media strategy and mindset tips with a focus on, you guessed it, feeling good. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some genuine conversation for the good of your biz. Do you know what your brand vibe is on Instagram? I have a new fun quiz that's just for you, my friend. I, of all people, know how hard it is to figure out how the heck you're supposed to translate your brand to the gram. And with this quick 7-question quiz, we will help you hone in on your brand's personality, voice, and visuals so that you can show up consistently and create content that looks beautiful and feels on brand for you. This quiz is so awesome. It's been a long time coming, and I know that you're going to have a lot of fun with it. Plus, the results will help you show up in the best way for you. If you'd like to check out our new brand vibe quiz, just head to feelgoodsocial.com/quiz. Pretty easy. Head to feelgoodsocial.com/quiz to find out what your brand's vibe is on social media and start showing up there for your brand.
All right, so my name is Gina DeFord. I'm the founder of Babe Crafted, which is a business development club based in Tampa Bay. We have 148 incredible members from all different backgrounds and industries. Most of our members are in the Tampa-St. Pete area, but we also have members around in other states and other countries. We help our members build confidence, relationships, and visibility. One of the things that we do is we offer a free webinar every month called a Babe Talk. We feature different guest speakers, different topics. This month, our guest speaker is the fabulous Kinsey Strive. A little bit about Kinsey. So she is the head honcho at Feel Good Social in Vail, Colorado. She helps down-to-earth entrepreneurs use social media without wasting their precious time. So here's a little bit about what you can expect from today's Babe Talk. So we have some pre-submitted questions that we're going to be asking Kinsey. You can share questions in the chat at any time, and then I will save them for the end. We'll do some Q&A. We'll do some live hot seats. It's a great opportunity to get some custom live feedback for you and where you're at with content planning in your business. There's also going to be a really awesome chance in the middle of the talk to win a brand vibe bundle from Kinsey. So this is a really awesome, it is customizable Canva templates, it's prompts for your captions, and there are different bundles that you can choose based on your brand vibe. So you can choose whichever one speaks to you and your brand. Okay, so we have one amazing hour together. We are not going to waste a single minute, so let's go ahead and jump in. So Kinsey, tell us about yourself and about your background and business.
Okay, thank you so much, Gina, for inviting me to do this Fave Talk. I'm so excited. It's so great to see your guys' beautiful faces or, names on the computer. Um, but my name is Kinsey. Like Gina said, I am living in Colorado. I'm a social media marketer for down-to-earth entrepreneurs, and I really focus on marketing on social media in a way that feels good to you, hence the name, Feel Good Social. It's my brand name. It's one of those things that I felt deeply in my soul when I was first starting in business is like really trying to create a social media marketing agency that looked like this or felt like this. And I was listening to all the experts online shouting, do this, do that. And, I came to the point where I really was not resonating with a lot of the messaging that I was hearing online, where it's like, you have to do this way. And also, I'm one of those people that's like, I'll be one of the first people to admit that social media is not the number one priority in your business, right? Like there are so many other things that you have going on all the time, especially if you're wearing all the hats still. And, social media is one of those things that we need to definitely like be implementing and using because it's this awesome free tool. But we also need to figure out a plan of attack that works for us, that's actually doable for us, and that helps us like show up consistently for the long term, because that's how you're really going to see results, show up in an authentic, genuine way that really speaks to your ideal customers, and all that different stuff. So that's a little bit about me. Now I do have some one-on-one monthly clients, but I also have a content marketing membership. I have an online course, and I do digital bundles, which is one of the things that we're giving away today, which is super, super fun. I'm a super nerd for content creation and design and caption writing and all that stuff. So if you guys have any questions about that, I'm here for it.
So fab. Thank you so much for sharing a bit about your background and about what your business really looks like, because even in the social media space, not every social media based business looks the same. So it's awesome to hear about the path that you have carved out. Okay, so our first question is, when it comes to mapping out our monthly content strategy and posts, where should we even start?
Yes. Okay. So let's get down to business. This is actually a process that I take my monthly membership women, amazing people, through every month. We host monthly content planning workshops. And the very first thing that I always start with, and I tell them every month, I'm like, you're going to get tired of me hearing this. Like, I know Elisa is here. I saw Evelyn is here. They hear me say this in the monthly workshops, is the first thing we need to do is really sit down at the beginning of every month and think, okay, where am I at personally in my life? What do I have time to commit to this month? What makes sense for my brand for this upcoming month? And where are my ideal customers at currently right now as we are moving into the upcoming month, right? So for now, it would be May. Like, think about your ideal customers, put yourself in their shoes. What are they feeling right now? What are they thinking right now? What do they need? What do they want right now in May, moving into that month? And think, how can I show up for them in the best way? Like, what content can I create that is going to speak to their emotions right now, that is going to be the most helpful for them right now, right? And then also just what makes sense for my brand. Is there anything specifically I want to promote this month and all that different stuff? And then I always encourage them to think about your own personal schedule. If you're the one creating content for your business, for me personally, we're about to go through a move in the upcoming month of May. We sold our home, right? And so I've already committed to not creating as many social media posts in the month of May, because I know that my life is going to be crazy personally. And I don't want to set goals for myself that make me feel like I'm just running on a content creation hamster wheel, right? So those are the things that you want to consider first, is really think about like your brand's strategy for the upcoming month when it comes to content, and commit to a plan of attack that you can actually do and that makes sense for your business and for your ideal customers, right?
Heck yes. Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, it's important to find what works for you, and what works for you is going to shift and change, like all of our favorite things in life. Okay. So our next question for the fabulous Kinsey is, what are some common obstacles that come up for business owners who are DIYing their content? How can we overcome them?
Yeah. Oh, so many, so many obstacles all the time, right? Well, the first thing when it comes to like obstacles, if something is feeling hard in your business, if something is feeling hard in the content creation process, in posting online or anything like that, I think that there are so many different things that people struggle with. So the first step is like becoming aware of what am I personally struggling with, right? Is it feeling overwhelmed by like the volume of content that you're putting out there, or confused about what the heck you should be posting? Is it feeling scared and nervous to actually show up online for your brand, right? Because my advice to you is going to be different depending on like what you're struggling with right now, right? So really, I think that we just need to identify, what am I struggling with right now? So if it's overwhelm, giving yourself clarity in like what kind of content you are going to be posting, really breaking it down and giving yourself direction and guidelines, which is what we're going to be talking about a little bit later in this workshop. And then also, like I said before, really just creating a plan of attack that works for you, such as like 3 posts a week versus 17 posts a week and all that different stuff. And then thinking about how can I reuse and repurpose content is super helpful. When it comes to confusion, like I said, giving yourself clarity as far as content pillars and all the different stuff, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is going to be super helpful. And then if it comes to you're just kind of like scared and nervous to show up online, there's a few different tactics that I like to use for that. I mean, firstly, one of the things that works for some people and not for all people is I like to kind of give ourselves reality checks when it comes to feeling like we're in the spotlight when we post on Instagram, right? Because a lot of my clients, and my social clubbers sometimes feel like they hit that post button and they're going to be like in the spotlight and everyone in the world is going to see their Instagram post, which I definitely have felt. I'm over it now after like 5 years of doing this hardcore, but it feels scary to post online. But the reality of the situation is that everyone is the star of their own lives, right? And not everyone in the entire world is going to see every single one of your Instagram posts, right? So if you struggle with perfectionism, if you're scared to show up online, just remind yourself that firstly, no one is going to judge you as hardcore as you're going to judge you, right? And secondly, not everyone is seeing your posts all the time. And it's okay to show up imperfectly because it actually makes you more human and more beautiful and more relatable as a brand too.
Well, the next question is, what are some guidelines that you can share when it comes to mixing and matching your content? This is your content topics, your themes, your types of content. I mean, there's a lot of layers to social media. We can frame this conversation as geared towards Instagram, since I know that's, for the most part, where most of us are spending the bulk of our time and energy. But what are your thoughts on some guidelines?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Okay, guys, this is where I'm going to get super nerdy with you. So I don't know if you did download the content map yet. This is something that it's just a part of like a whole workbook that I share with my social clubbers in our membership. But this is kind of like my take on how I kind of map out my monthly content, right? I firstly like to start with legit a calendar in front of me and then break down my weekly themes, pillars, number of posts that I'm going for, my workflow, all that stuff in one sheet so I can see it in front of me, right? And I really like to start big picture when it comes to planning my content and then slowly zoom in, right? So, and I think of the calendar as the map, just so you guys know where my map is, where the map is coming from. But basically what I will think about first is just literally staying away from the shiny objects, right? This is why I always start with what makes sense for my brand for the upcoming month so that we don't get lost in the shiny objects of social media, hashtag holidays and all that stuff. But think about your brand. Do you have any events coming up this month? Do you do a weekly podcast? Do you share a weekly blog post or anything like that? What are the things that your brand has coming up this month? And I mark them on the calendar map, right? And then I kind of start zooming in and looking at my weeks and thinking, okay, how can I create content every week that makes sense when it comes to this big picture map, right? Firstly, how many posts have I committed to every week? If it's 3 per week, great. I need 1, 2, 3 or the first week, second week, third week, fourth week. And I start giving myself guidelines for the content that I want to create, right? So maybe you've committed to 3 posts a week and you're like, okay, I'm going to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, a social media post, right? Every week sort of thing. And then I start kind of giving myself further guidelines with my content pillars, right? So you guys have probably heard about content pillars before. A lot of people talk about them online and stuff like that. When it comes to content pillars, they're basically just repeatable guidelines that you can give yourself for your content to break it down and give it more clarity and make it easier to understand what to post every week and all that different stuff. But I have kind of a different take on it. I like to, usually people just talk about content pillars in general, right? But when it comes to content pillars, I like to break them into 3 different categories. So I talk about theme pillars, I talk about topic pillars, and I talk about type pillars, right? So your theme pillar is going to be kind of more like related to a topic within your industry, right? Or more related to something that you want to talk about for your brand or something like that. And I'll come back around to theme pillars in a second because it kind of makes sense a little bit more so to label that a little bit last, right? When it comes to topic pillars, I like to think of those as like kind of those general brand guideline pillars that most brands could talk about, right? So topic pillars could be brand stories. It could be customer testimonials. It could be behind the scenes or process posts. It could be promotion, right? Promoting your offer should definitely be one of your topic pillars for your brand. And so it's kind of those general guidelines that we can all post about regularly in our content. And then type pillars are kind of the type of post, right? So a reel, a carousel, a photo of your face, things like that, right? So I would just list out what topic pillars do I really want to hit? What type pillars, type of posts do I really want to post this month, right? And then when it comes to your themes, this is kind of the more general topic for your brand and what makes sense for you and your industry and all that different stuff. So for example, for me, for Feel Good Social, I have a podcast. I release an episode every week, sometimes 2 episodes. Sometimes it happens. But usually if I'm having a normal month for Feel Good Social, what I will do is make my theme pillar a weekly theme pillar. And it's usually the topic of my podcast. And then when it comes to my Instagram content, I create different posts based on what the topic of my podcast is, right? So this could look different for you every month, depending on your business. You know, if you share a blog instead of a podcast, or if you just want to choose a theme, like that's okay too, you know, and they can be weekly themes, or sometimes they could be monthly themes. Say you're really like launching one of your big offers this month, then maybe your whole monthly theme is based around your offer, and it's really trying to lead up to you like opening the doors and closing the doors in the last week of that month or something, right? But your weekly themes in that case could be broken down into, you know, the first week is kind of introducing and speaking to your ideal customer's problem when it comes to what your offer helps them solve, right? The second week could be offering tips and kind of leading them into prepping them to want to buy that offer at the end, right? But when it comes to the themes, you know, when you have your different types of pillars, your themes, topics, and types of posts, you can really kind of mix and match them and break them down more easily, map it out on this calendar for yourself, right? So for me, for example, with Feel Good Social, I'm trying to remember what my weekly podcast theme is this week. I shared an episode that's basically 6 tips for creating content that your ideal customers actually pay attention to, right? And so say I wanted to post 3 times this week, right? And I wanted to post a reel, I wanted to post a carousel, and I wanted to post a just photo of my face or something. And maybe my topic pillars are personal or brand story, tips post, and then a promotional post or something like that, right? I could share photo of my face with like a story about how I switched a word in my messaging and it like made people pay attention to my posts more. So I talked about this thing versus this thing, and it was really helpful, right? I could share a reel about the podcast itself, or like a reel that kind of like portrays the messaging in the podcast for what customers pay attention to. And then I could also share like a carousel post that's literally 6 tips, walking my followers through the 6 tips that I share in my podcast. Right. So that's just an example of how I would do this for Feel Good Social. And it feels a little bit overwhelming to describe, but when you start really just breaking it down and giving yourself guidelines, starting big picture and choosing the theme, then choosing, okay, 3 posts, here are my 3 topics, and here are the 3 types of posts. How can I talk about my theme in a reel as a customer testimonial or something? You know what I mean? Like, it really becomes more clear when you start breaking it down like that and giving yourself guidelines like that. So did I hit all the points? I get so geeked out about this, guys. I just like could go on forever.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Kinsey. Okay, so here's what is going to happen. I'm going to pop another exercise in the chat. If everyone could share, how do you currently feel about your content planning process, and how do you want to feel? So go ahead and have a think on that, share in the chat, and we'll commiserate together so that we can move past, feeling overwhelmed and get to a place where we're like moving and grooving and we're creating a plan that works for us. And then our next question for Kinsey is, how can we create a content plan of attack that works for us? What are some examples of content plans? And like, what are the benefits of maybe doing one plan over another? And of course, this comes down to what works best for you, but I think sharing a little bit more context around them would be really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it does really depend on like your ideal customers and what you feel the most comfortable creating when it comes to content, right? I always encourage people to lean into content that feels joyful and fun and easy. And sometimes if things don't feel joyful and fun and easy, you can make them feel a little bit more joyful and fun and easy just by trying it, right? That's what happened to me with Reels. I stayed away from Reels for so long. And now I'm like, I kind of really like it, guys. But, like, don't just like dismiss like Reels because you're like, that doesn't feel fun and joyful and easy for me, right? But I truly believe that like, if you like creating Reels, or if you love designing in Canva and creating carousels, like do more of that, because that energy comes into your content. Like I feel this. I actually have tested this with Feel Good Social. If we're honest, like in February, I did a 30 days of Reels challenge that I set for myself just because I wanted to speak from experience when it came to creating Reels. And I was really paying attention to the analytics and the insights and really trying to be aware of what was working, what wasn't, and all that different stuff. And by the end of February, I was feeling so just dragged down and I felt my mental health slipping, right? And so in March, I was like, I'm going to continue creating Reels because I actually find it fun and joyful, but I'm not going to care about doing it right, following the trends, all that insights and all that different stuff. And I just showed up and created from a place of joy, and it performed 1,000 times better. Okay, not like 1,000 times better, but still, like it was crazy, like the difference of my performance in posts in March versus February. And so I really encourage you to lean into content that you enjoy creating, because I think that energy comes through, right? And then also everyone's audiences are different. I've seen Reels perform really, really well for certain people, but I've also seen people's carousels performing so much better than their Reels, right? And I think it depends on you as the content creator, but it also depends on what your audience likes, what your audience enjoys consuming from you. So my first tip for this is to just really kind of, if you don't know what that is for your brand, just start testing, right? And create a variety of content and really see, start testing and see what are people responding to more? What are they commenting on more? All that different stuff. And then lean into what's working for you. Because I can't really say that there's one specific thing. But I do in general recommend that you create a variety of content to kind of hit everyone in all the places the best way you can, right? So, for example, Reels are performing really well on Instagram in general as far as reach, right? But in that past few months of really trying to pay attention to what content is working well and all that different stuff, I actually have seen carousels performing better as far as engagement in general, right? And so reels are really, really awesome for creating something that's like quick and actionable, easy, bite size for your audience to consume. Maybe reels feel a little bit more relatable, right? If you create a funny, mimicky reel or something like that, like reels are really great for that. They're really great for like maybe boosting your visibility on the platform because they are getting more visibility in general. But carousels are really great for sharing those in-depth tips that are super helpful for your ideal customers that make them go, oh, heck yeah, like I need to save this post, right? Also carousels, I've seen more people commenting on them for some reason. I think it's just because like literally it's easier to comment on a carousel because it doesn't like get lost on top of the video like a Reels comments do. And also like carousels, people pause on your post for longer. So it has more time to like sink into their memory and be memorable for them. So I think that it's a good idea to post reels. I think it's a good idea to post carousels. I think it's a good idea to post a photo of your beautiful face, right? Like, because people want to see your eyes, they want to get to know you, all that different stuff. So that's probably where I would recommend starting, is like kind of creating a variety of content, but then also kind of lightly paying attention to what are people loving the most and maybe leaning into that more so.
Heck yes. Thank you so much for everything that you've shared so far, Kinsey. Okay, so after hearing your responses to some of these questions and checking out all these amazing responses in the chat, thank you everyone for being so open about what you're sharing. So we're gonna change up this game a little bit. Normally, like we pretty much stick to the pre-submitted questions and then we dive into Q&A, but we've got 30 more minutes together and there's so much there's so many great juicy comments and questions in here. So I'm going to start going straight to the questions. Okay. So the first question, Kinsey, is from Nikita. So she said she has a love-hate relationship. Yes, with social media, but she gets overwhelmed with all of her ideas. So for Nikita and anyone else in this talk today that feels like, okay, I've got a lot of ideas, but where do I start? And how do I kind of like tame the chaos? What have you got to say on that front?
Oh man, I feel that. So many. I'm one of those shiny object people, right? For sure. And I get very excited about lots of different things. And I feel like a golden retriever, like squirrel, like, so I feel that, right? So first things first, definitely we need an idea bank. Right. We need this is actually something I teach in my online course often is like, I call it like a story bank. And then I call it a visuals bank too. I think that we need two different kinds of banks, right? But basically it can be a note app on your phone where you just like keep your ideas, you know what I mean? You could organize it a little bit more so with like, oh my gosh, I have this idea for a post. Like, what is my content pillar for this, right? If you wanted to use like a Trello board or like some sort of bucket board with like your content pillars listed at the top, and then you want to organize your ideas in the different like pillars, like that's a little bit helpful sometimes, right? But basically just like getting those ideas out of your head and onto paper, or not virtual paper, is a good idea because then they're not swirling around up here and they'd feel like a little bit less overwhelming. They're concrete, right? And also when you get them onto paper, you can pin them to use in the future, right? So that it doesn't feel like you need to use it right now and all this different stuff. You can put it into your computer or whatever it is, pin it, like, so you know it's there so you can use it for later. And that's going to free up brain space in the present moment, right? Also, getting picky and choosy when it comes to the ideas that you're posting about right now. Some ideas that we have, we're like, this is the best idea ever, but like, does it really make sense for our brand? Like getting picky and choosy about the things that you post. Also, does it make sense for me to post this right now, or is this something that I can save and post next week or next month or something like that, right? And really, like, I've had to train myself to do this. I've had to teach myself to do this, to like let go of my amazing, awesome ideas I have, because there's no way I could like post everything that I wanted to, right? But I definitely go back, like whenever I'm looking for a podcast, like whenever I'm like at a loss, for what my podcast topic is, I go back into my idea bank and I look for something there, right? And then also too, batch planning is super, super helpful. I'm always kind of hesitant, when it comes to batch planning, because a lot of people, a lot of people I've run into in my community, they like, if they're just starting out posting on Instagram, they almost feel overwhelmed by the batch planning process and they almost turn into a deer in headlights, right? But the more you can start practicing batch planning, any type of content, the easier your life is going to be, right? So batch planning is basically when you set out a period of time to create more than one post that then you're going to post spread out like into the future. You know what I mean? And batch planning can be done per month. It can be done per week. It can be done every 2 weeks or something like that, right? But the more you can start implementing that into your content creation process, the easier it's going to be for you, because you get into like your zone of genius where you're like when you can look at your full month big picture map and be like, okay, every Monday, I'm going to post a carousel with 3 testimonials or something, or just a customer feature carousel or something. And you can create those 3 customer feature carousels at one time. And it'll take you so much less time than if every Monday you were to go into Canva and try to find the customer that you want to feature and then figure out everything about them and then create the carousel. Like that takes an hour, but creating 3 of those carousels also can take you an hour at one time, right? Just because you're getting into your zone of genius and you're in the flow, and you don't have to bring yourself back to mentally that place of content creation, right? So hopefully that's helpful.
Yes. And Nikita, if you have any follow-up questions in the chat about your content bank, I was going to say a question about Google Sheets. And I was like, no, her question is not about Google Sheets. It's that she uses Google Sheets. So sorry, everyone. I just, needed to work through that craziness happening in my brain. So feel free to share any follow-up questions in the chat. Okay, our next question is, so from Christina. So she has stepped away from Instagram. She had a baby 1.5 years ago. Heck yes to baby Maggie. She's lovely. But she feels like Reels have been really taken off since that time that she spent away from social media. Reels are intimidating. They feel like a foreign language. But something I want to tell you about Christina is that she is a photographer and a videographer. So how can you, what can you share for her to help her feel like Reels are a little bit more her jam?
Mm-hmm. Oh, lady, I feel you. I stayed away from Reels for so freaking long, right? And because I was like, this feels like it's just not in my creative zone of genius, right? Like I had my set content plan of attack and like my jam, creating this carousel every week and then just like posting a photo of my face. It was great, and all that different stuff. First thing I want to say is that like Reels are not like the end all be all game of social media, right? Like I said, just my own like analysis of like insights and just kind of getting a feel for what's working on the platform and stuff. Reels are performing well as far as reach, and they can perform well. They are not performing as well anymore as everyone has been boosting them, like talking them up for like a long time, right? For a while there in the beginning, Reels were performing very, very well because it was such a new feature, because not as many people were doing it, right? Because Instagram's algorithm itself like truly was boosting Reels visibility because they wanted to encourage people to do Reels, right? But it's so funny. Like I swear, when I did my Reels challenge in February, the algorithm started changing, right? It felt like, and maybe this is just me, being the star of my own life, as everyone is, but like I was like watching the Reels, like everyone's like Reels, like up until February. And I'm like, I'm going to do a Reels challenge. And then in February, I swear Instagram finally decided to like update its algorithm and do all these changes. And so Reels aren't performing crazy good as much as they were. So like, I want you to take that pressure off of yourself to like, have to only do Reels now, right? But I will say that like they are performing well. When I started doing them and playing around with them, I actually found out I really like creating them. And, like they're way more fun, and like now I kind of would rather myself create Reels more than like the carousels even and stuff like that, which is crazy. So I was like, I love my carousels forever, So I would probably just encourage you to start playing around with creating Reels, but also kind of take the pressure off of yourself to have to do it right or do it a certain way or follow the trends, right? Because I truly do believe that like, I think the trends are so like The trends are awesome, but they're not like necessary to follow and be on top of, right? Like the reels that have performed the best for me and for my customers and all that different stuff is like literally the reels that like where you're showing up as authentically as possible, that you love creating and that feel like you. So lean into that. I really would encourage you to maybe start doing some like reels research, which set like a 10-minute time limit on your phone or whatever, right? Because like it can be easy to get sucked into spending hours doing research for reels. But you know, just start scrolling through reels and really scroll intentionally, listening to the audio that people use, and then also noticing what they're creating out of a reel, right? And ask yourself every reel that you look at, like, can I reuse this audio for me and my brand in some way? Or can I recreate this reel to make sense for my brand in some way, right? That's how I do it whenever I create reels and stuff. And I have seen, you know, it's so awesome that you're a photographer. I should we should connect on Instagram if we haven't yet, Christina. I'm not sure if we have or not, but like I start sending people reels inspiration all the time when I'm doing my reels research. I saw a really cool one the other day. Like with photography, a lot of photographers will just edit their photos together to like go along with some music or something. Like that doesn't really matter that much either, if we're honest. But like, you know, like a before and after edit is awesome. Or like showing the same photo in like black and white versus color, right, is really cool for photographers to see. Like just start playing around with it in a way that's like no pressure and like easy for you. Like maybe just try to make it a goal to like do a little reels research this week, and then like maybe try to make one reel next week, depending on like what the research shows you and your inspiration and all that different stuff. And it'll start becoming easier when you start like practicing. I really believe that.
Thank you so much, Kinsey. And thank you, Christina, for your question. Okay, so we're going to take a couple more minutes to work through these questions. We're going to do our giveaway for our Brand Vibe bundle, and then we're going to open it up and you can unmute and ask a question and, you know, have that live hot seat experience with Kinsey. Okay, so our next question is from Vicky. So she is a jewelry designer. She makes polymer clay jewelry. It's lovely. And she wants to know, you know, what is your feedback on including more lifestyle content to her content strategy? Because she said that, you know, her account is primarily about the jewelry and new products, but that she does get more engagement when she shares more lifestyle content, lifestyle information.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love this question. And actually, this is totally something that I think we talked about in like the last content planning workshop for my members, or I turned it into a podcast episode. I'm forgetting what it was. But okay, lifestyle content is awesome to share, I think. I'm all about storytelling in your content. Like stories are so compelling. They set you apart from like all the other like jewelry makers out there, right? Like I can't wait to take a look at your jewelry because I love that sort of like the clay looking stuff, right? Or is it like I don't know. I'm gonna have to go stalk you after this. But yeah, long story short, like there are a lot of artisans on Instagram. There's a lot of jewelry makers on there and stuff. And like you are the most unique part of your business, and you are the human part of your business, right? Like people are going to connect, like people are going to love and feel inspired by your jewelry and they'll want to wear it. But like connecting with you is going to make them choose you versus like all of the other jewelry makers out there. So I would definitely promote storytelling and lifestyle content and stuff like that. But what I really want to encourage you to do is always, and actually this week's episode of the Feel Good Social podcast is probably a really good one for you to listen to if you want, because I talk about this, like how to speak to your ideal customers, right? So always remember whenever you're sharing any sort of lifestyle or personal stuff, any type of content really, but speak to your ideal customer and really like imagine one of your ideal customers, right? Imagine like one of your big fans that like loves your jewelry and like you buy it online, but isn't necessarily like your mom or your best friend either, right? Like that like customer who like you have that customer relationship with, but you still love and they love you. Imagine you're sitting with them in a coffee shop, right? And you're chatting to them as if you're like whispering in their ear, right? You're not like speaking to them from a stage. Like that's so helpful. And make sure that you're speaking to them. What stories would I tell this woman? Not what stories would I tell my mom or my best friend or my boss or the mailman or whatever it is, right? And that's going to really help you like getting into that mindset, and speaking to that person is going to help you understand what to share. And also remember too, I use this example with one of my Feel Good Social Clubbers, like, we have a few podcast editors in the Feel Good Social Club. And like for them, you know, they could totally share a personal story about motherhood as a mother themselves, if like that's who they mostly want to work with, right? Or if that's mostly who their ideal customer is. If like most of their podcast customers are also like mothers or women who are thinking about motherhood, or just like women in general too, you know, sharing like personal stories as far as motherhood or being a woman and stuff like that totally makes sense for them to share with their customers. But if they are doing podcast editing for like sports car guys and like sexy flexy men, you know, they probably aren't going to share a story about motherhood on their Instagram account, because like that isn't relatable for their ideal customer of the sexy flexy sports car guy. You know what I mean? That isn't who their ideal customer is. But like that's, you know, one of those things that you think about is like, whenever I'm sharing this story, it doesn't necessarily have to be about my brand. Like definitely share personal stories about the process, about why you're doing what you're doing, about how you learned what you're doing and all that stuff. But like you can also share something about like, oh my gosh, my kid just freaking like splatted his spaghetti on the floor right before my first client meeting. Especially if like your ideal customer is also like possibly a mother or something that would resonate with, right? Let me know if that's helpful for you.
Thank you, Kinsey, and thank you, Christina. Okay, we've got two more questions. This one is from Delaney. So a little bit of context about Delaney. She is a wonderful wedding planner based in St. Pete, Florida, but she also does destination weddings. So she's asking about, you know, incorporating reels and TikToks into her content plan. She said she's really great at content planning when it comes to other types of feed posts, you know, stories, but reels and TikToks are kind of like off on their own island. So what feedback do you have for Delaney and anyone else who feels the same way?
You know, I want to encourage you, like when my reels really started taking off is when I stopped giving an F as much about the trends, about what's working, about like copying what everyone else was doing. And I started really like always centering myself in my own content and my brand and all that different stuff, right? Like, so if I'm creating a mimicky reel, I usually create mimicky reels from like fitness, like I'm usually inspired by fitness or like a plant guy or like other things that don't have to do with other social media marketers as much, because I really want like my content to feel like me and like my take on social media marketing and all that stuff versus like following a trend or something like that. I've been playing around with animated graphic reels lately. I've added like quite a few of those templates into the Feel Good Social Club and stuff. And I test all my templates myself. And like at first they weren't performing very well. I will be honest with you. Like people weren't really loving the graphic template reels or the graphic animated graphic reels that I was creating in Canva. Right. But like there's some of my best performing reels now. I'm really excited about it, like, genuinely. So I'm like, yes. So like that's something you can do too, right? Is like you don't always have to follow the trends. You don't always have to do a mimicky reel that's like hard to make feel on brand for you. You can totally do like a tips thing. Actually, this month I'm adding people love the freaking fake Twitter posts, you know, you guys know what I'm talking about on Instagram. They like love when people like slap a fake Twitter post on like, usually it's just like a square graphic, right? Turn that into a reel with like and in Canva, you can do like a cute, they have stock videos, which I scour all the stock videos and just throw like waves in the background, you know, and then slap your fake Twitter post on top of that, share it as a reel, just to like get more reach and stuff like that. And then finally, I cannot wait for the day that they allow you to schedule out your reels into the future. Unfortunately, you know, you can't auto schedule and publish reels and stuff like that. But if you use a scheduler, most schedulers do allow you to like schedule story posts or schedule posts with like a push notification to your phone, right? So sometimes I'll do that if I'm like scheduling one of my graphic animated reels. I'll throw it into later and I'll schedule it out as a push notification so that it makes it easier for me to schedule out my content ahead of time and post it. And or if it's like a reel that I just have saved in my phone, like one of those mimicky reels, then I'll still just like do a push notification and later, or add a notification into my Google Calendar, something to remind me to post it, right? And it just like, it like lessens like the energy that it takes to like post reels like in the moment. Let me know if that's helpful, lady.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing that. So we have one more question, and then we're going to do our giveaway, and then we're going to open it up for some hot seats. So we're moving and grooving. The final question is about being short on time. So let's say you've got the content planning down pat, okay, these are my themes. This is what I've got going on. I'm going to build content around that. Well, now it comes time to actually create the content. And a lot of the gals that have this similar question, they have children, like they're moms and they're business owners, and then you throw in the fact that social media is overwhelming, So what tips do you have for being really short on time? How can you maximize 30 minutes, an hour, etc. of content creation?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, try to set aside time for yourself with minimal distractions if possible, which I know is super hard with kiddos. But, even just like, when you put them down for the nap, like then go create your content, and like 10 minutes of uninterrupted time is going to be so much better than like the 30 minutes of like trying to do it like while navigating the kiddos and stuff like that. Right. So really try to give yourself just like a little bit of time uninterrupted, because like when you can get into the zone, because that's going to be like a little bit more helpful than trying to juggle, and then you get frustrated and then it just builds on top of each other and stuff. And also give yourself as many guidelines as you can. Right. So do that mapping process, right? Like start big picture, say, okay, this is my weekly theme, 3 posts a week, 1 reel, 1 photo of my face, 1 carousel, every week. And then do like, okay, customer testimonial every Monday, promotional post every Wednesday or whatever it is, personal story post every Friday or whatever, or inspirational quote, or there's so many different things you can do, right? But give yourself those guidelines so that you can like break it down so it doesn't feel so overwhelming. And then use templates, like create like a template for your brand for customer testimonials that you can use every week. And then basically it's just like slapping a new photo in there of a different customer, typing up their quote, downloading, done. Slap the next customer's photo in there, type up the testimonial quote, done. You know what I mean? Like, that's why like the Feel Good Social Club, I offer like the templates, I offer the post prompts, all that different stuff, because like it's so hard when you're staring at that blinking cursor. Like I hate that feeling of being like, blink, come on, brain, like what the heck am I supposed to say for this, right? Like, no, create templates for yourself, give yourself a prompt, right? Or like find resources that like are helpful when it comes to caption writing and stuff like that, so that you don't have to start from scratch every time, so you don't have to create something out of thin air every single time, right? It's totally okay to post like the same testimonial template. Like it's totally okay to post like similar templates again and again and again every week, just switching up like a little bit of the content, what the content is within it. That's actually helpful to make your brand like recognizable on Instagram for people, so that when they're scrolling by, they like see the template that you post every week for a customer testimonial, and they're like, oh, this post is coming from this person, and they'll like slow their scroll more so if you use the same templates, if you repeat and talk about the same things. Like it's okay to repeat yourself and talk about the same things too, right? And it's okay to post like similar looking visuals. Like you don't have to start anew every time. So I hope that that's helpful, lady. But I feel you when it comes to, I have so much respect for all my mamas out there. Like literally, I do know it's so difficult to do that and to make time and all that stuff. And so remember also, social media isn't your number one priority. And it's okay if you miss a post, try to take the overwhelm and the pressure off yourself as much, and give yourself grace as much as possible too when it comes to this process, because it's a lot. And you're a freaking rad, awesome mama. And that's what matters more than posting on social media sometimes,
Heck yes. Okay. Hope that's helpful, ladies. It doesn't matter however much time you have, let's just maximize it and not beat ourselves up over only having an hour or only having 30 minutes. Like, that can still be hugely impactful, and you can get your story out there and get in front of your ideal client. Okay. So we are doing our giveaway. So go ahead and share your biggest takeaway you've had during this talk. Share that in the chat. So while we're giving you a minute to go ahead and share that, Kinsey, if you could summarize just like some words of advice to leave everyone with before we dive in our hot seats, would love to have you share that.
Oh, so much. But I mean, the message that I really try to spread is just like, exactly what Gina said, kind of to wrap it up, is like, take the pressure off yourself as much as possible. Like there's a lot of like, social media shaming in business, I guess, like not really, but like we shame ourselves a lot too, right? Like we go on Instagram and we instantly are like, look at this woman just over here posting all this stuff. Like, why can't I do that? Like, why, like, it's so hard, to like show up and all that different stuff. So like, like literally I had one of my people do this the other day, like write down every single thing that you were dealing with this week. Write down every single thing that you were feeling this week. Write down every single thing you did this week. And like, if you write it down on a list and you actually look at it, it's so much easier to be like, oh yeah, I had a lot going on, versus like shaming yourself for not getting enough done. Like always remember to like appreciate your badass self for like all the work that you do. Like processing emotions takes energy. Like there's so many like little tasks that you have to do every day. Managing children and people and families and dogs, like that takes energy and all that different stuff, right? So like appreciate how much work you actually do. Give yourself some grace. Remember that like, some people are showing up online all shiny and all that stuff. And like some people don't have children, and some people like have a team behind them supporting them, and you can only do what you can do. And so, and also it looks different every month too, right? It looks different every week. It looks different every day. Like I have my weeks I'm like, I don't want to show up this week. Or my days where I'm like, ooh, like I just feel like an emotional mess right now. Like I'm just going to skip today, and that's fine. Some months, like I said, next month, this whole process of moving has been emotional drama for me. So I'm just like letting myself be on social media, even as a social media marketer. A few years ago, I would have been like, Kinsey, you need to be showing up and doing everything right because you're in this industry, and it's like, you need to set the example and all that different stuff. But now, like in the third year of my business, I'm like, Kins, just show up how you need to show up today. Even as a marketer who like knows these things and has had like years and years of practice doing these things. So give yourself grace, appreciate the work that you do, and then, hop back on the horse when you eventually fall off, because I've fallen off the horse so many times, and all you got to do is hop back on it when you can.
Absolutely. Such wonderful words of encouragement. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay. So I'm going to do my very exciting rapid scrolling, and we're going to choose a winner for a Brand Vibe bundle. I hope you're all feeling oh so lucky. Someone's going to win one of Kinsey's bundles. It's got customizable templates. It's got prompts. They're pretty incredible, and they're all different so they can match your brand. Okay. So the winner is going to be, oh my goodness, it's Monica. Thank you so much for sharing, everyone. These are all such incredible takeaways. I hope I have your permission to share these awesome takeaways in our members only Facebook group later, just to share more encouragement with everyone, because social media it's a big job, and it's a full-time job for people like Kinsey. So do not feel any sort of shame if maybe you don't get to it one week, or maybe you're a little bit behind. Just do what you can and just, rock it and embrace it. Okay. So who has a question for Kinsey and would like to have her answer for you live? Go ahead and unmute your mic and ask your question.
I was just wondering, like, I've been going back and forth and going back to my main question of like how to add live style. And in some opportunities, I have got other brands approach me and be like, hey, we would like you to test A or B or C. And of course, I have another account for that, but I feel like my followers would like some of those, collaborations, interactions within another brand and my brand. But I'm always worried that like I'm not using my platform the right way, because at the end of the day, what I want to is to promote my product instead of promoting somebody else. But at the same time, I'm like, how can I serve myself and my community and take advantage of this opportunity? So yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, I love it. I am all about collaboration, like over competition, and I'm all about collaboration as much as possible. I think it's one of those things where it's like, be thoughtful and intentional about what you share on Instagram, like always remember your ideal customer. You know what I mean? Like always remember, is this something they might think is interesting, or would this make sense for them? So definitely be like thoughtful about like who you're sharing and how you're sharing it when it comes to your brand and stuff like that. But I think that like, other than that, like the more collaborative you can be, like the better, right? Because it's like increasing everyone's visibility more so, if you can collaborate with a brand. And I believe in Instagram karma too. Like literally, like if you share, someone else is going to feel more inclined to share you as well and all that different stuff. Often too, it is really helpful to your ideal customers to share something that's a little bit outside of your brand as well. But I would say if you're like questioning, like, what does this make sense for my brand? Should I share it? Like the best thing you can do is share to your Instagram stories, right? I'm sharing all day, every day, pretty much anything I want to my Instagram stories, because they only last 24 hours, And so it's one of those things like maybe you test it, maybe you test like, oh, is this something my customers would be interested in? Okay, I'm going to share it to my stories with like a question box or with like a poll and see if people are interested in it. And then maybe that's something I pursue more of or something.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much, especially because what you said, like my ideal customer. So if like I got new stationery, I know they will love paper and markers. So I can share that with them. And they were like, oh my God, that's awesome. So yes, I love that. Thank you so much.
Oh my goodness. And I just want to share one quick idea. How fun would it be, Vicky, to have a post where you're like, oh, when your earrings match your stationery? Because I know you have earrings that I'm sure are going to match that new stationery, whether it was on purpose or not. There's always a way to like make it fun and cute and relevant. So very excited to see your future content. Thank you for your answer for Vicky too, Kinsey. You're a rock star. Okay, so we had our first fabulous hot seat. We have time for one more. Who would like to be bold, unmute their microphone, and jump in?
So I just want to share some love on Kinsey because she's amazing. I have had the honor and privilege of like being a collaborator with her for different things, and some of my clients have gone into her membership, and she's done my social media marketing at a time, and she's always been a really great storyteller. So if you are thinking about looking for someone to help you with your social media and you want to be a part of a club, I definitely would say join it. And her templates are bomb diggity, and her unique approach to like helping you feel more confident on social media is great. So much so that, now I can't feel like I can't do it without her. So anyway, the point is she's amazing. Check out her stuff. I think you guys all know that by now after today, but I just wanted to share some love for Kinsey.
Gosh, Nikita, thank you so much. I love you, lady. I love working with you too.
So wonderful. So wonderful. Thank you for sharing some love for Kinsey, Nikita. That was so kind and wonderful. Okay, so let's go ahead and open it up one more time for a hot seat. Who has a question that they'd like to address? There is a huge chance that the question you have, there are other ladies on this call who have the same thing that they'd love help with. So shoot your shot. Who wants to claim this last hot seat? Yes, go for it, Rosemary.
All right. So I have a question. I am still like piddling around in Instagram and learning what works and what doesn't work and playing with all the fun stuff and, going crazy when they create something new and going, oh, what the, anyways, my question is, as I'm growing, is it really worth it to be on social media? Are people really getting an great ROI for the amount of time that we invest in creating all of this crazy content, the reels, the carousels. It's a lot. It's a huge time suck. And even though I'm new, I'm kind of watching people going, are you really making that much? Because I think mostly it's word of mouth that you get more of your money than you do from social media, from what I've heard and asking people. So is it really worth it?
I mean, I love this question, Rosemary. Thanks for asking. It depends. Like, I totally agree. Like, and it's so funny. It depends on your brand, right? And it depends on what you're looking to get out of social media and all that stuff. Like, I think that, social media ain't going anywhere. If anything, it's only going to get more and more important. I think that there's a lot of stuff that you can gain from social media. Like, often people go to brands' Instagram accounts to like check them out, to like see if they're legit, to like see like that social proof and stuff like that, see that they're still like relevant and like an active brand kind of thing, right? Like, I think it's important to have a social media presence in that way, because the internet is only taking off more and more and more, and so I think it's important to be on social media as a brand and like on the internet as a brand, but depending on what kind of business you have and like how much time it takes you and what results you want to get, you have to measure that, right? And I always like to think of ROI as not only like the money I'm spending, but exactly the time, the creative energy that you spend. Is this worth it for me? So that's why I always say to people, I know social media isn't your number one. Like, it's not your number one priority in your business, and it is the long game. Ultimately, like, the way you do see success on social media is showing up consistently for a long time. So that's why it's like figuring out a plan of attack that's like going to spend the least amount of time and energy from you creating content that's going to get you the best results. And I like to think, I actually say this, I think of social media as digital word of mouth marketing. Like, when my approach to social media is focusing on nurturing relationships, and encouraging like word of mouth, like online too. You know what I mean? So like, I spend a good amount of time like commenting on my followers' posts, like sharing my social clubbers posts to my Instagram stories, really like cultivating community, and establishing my brand so that I stay top of mind for people. They're scrolling on Instagram every day. And so when they see a Feel Good Social post and they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, my friend yesterday was talking about how she's struggling with social media marketing for her business. Kinsey, like, I'm going to send her Kinsey's post real quick. You know what I mean? Like, there's so much ROI, like return on investment, that like you can't measure when it comes to social media marketing, but that's what I like to focus on and remind myself of. So I think it's worth it, but I think it's also very important to make sure that you're not spending too much time and energy doing it either. It's like finding that right balance, like for you. Is that helpful, honey?
It is. And, I find when I look at it, it's people who are definitely niched down and targeted in what they do when you're not there on your message. So that's not surprising. But I did have another great question. What is it? And it's gone. Lord have mercy. But yeah, it's very frustrating. Oh, I knew what it was. The size of your followers. So one of the things that I may be observing correctly is that it's actually, I know a lot of us want numbers and people look at numbers, but from what I've heard from other people is the larger you get, the smaller the interaction becomes percentage-wise, comparatively. So to be content with a smaller audience, you could probably get a better ROI than a larger audience. What do you think?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I teach deleting followers in my online course. Like, this is something I could get fired up about, lady. Because like literally, yeah. I mean, I encourage people to not look at insights as much, right? To look at them from a very abstract, like analytical, like suggestive point of view, and not get sucked into the numbers, because it's super easy to get sucked into numbers, and it's super easy to like, our egos are so strong. Like, everyone has an ego, and everyone loves like their ego to be boosted, and like the follower count, the amount of likes, the engagement, all that different stuff. Like, it's an ego boost versus like the the literally cultivating relationships with your ideal customers is what is going to get you the most results as a small business, unless you're like trying to be an influencer or something like that, right? Like, so going back to the sexy flexy men that I mentioned earlier, you know, whenever some dude starts following me that is like posing in front of a sports car, not with a thumbs up, he's too cool for a thumbs up, he's like leaning against a sports car in his profile photo, and I go to it and it's like trading stocks and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't think you want to like hear what I have to say. It's like my social media marketing stuff side of the internet, like delete you from my following, because I don't need him and I'm not speaking to him, and he's taken away from like my possible chance to reach like my other followers, right? Like the algorithm's been changing a lot, but like ultimately like what the algorithm has done in the past, there's been a lot of changes lately, is like you post on Instagram, it pushes your post out to like a certain percentage of your following, and then it sees how it performs. And if it starts like getting engagement and stuff like that, then it pushes it out to more people, right? Because it's like, oh, this post is valuable. But if it pushes it out to a robot account or a sexy flexy man account who isn't going to comment on my post ain't going to perform as well, you know? So like, for sure, like take the ego out of it as much as possible.
Thank you so much for your questions, Rosemary. Oh, sorry to talk over you, girl. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kinsey. Okay, so keep an eye out for the replay and all the goodies we'll be sending your way. And be kind to yourselves as you're navigating social media and up-leveling your process for planning and content creation. Take Kinsey's word to heart and just know that whatever you're doing, it's all well worthwhile. So let's keep moving forward together. Everyone, have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.
Well, there you have it, my friend. I hope that you enjoyed this live chat replay with my friend Gina from Babe Crafted. I hope that you found the information that I shared super actionable. And if you are interested in joining either of our memberships, mine is the Feel Good Social Club. Gina's is the Babe Crafted membership. Both are amazing, and they are really, really great to be supportive and help you create content in a way that is easy, fun, and actually converts, right? So make sure that you connect with both of us. I'm at Feel Good Social on Instagram. Gina is at Babe Crafted. We would both love to connect with you, and we would both love to support you inside of our membership communities. Okay, I hope you have a great week, and I will catch you next time I catch you. Real quick, have I invited you to join the Feel Good Social Club yet? Oh man, my friend, I would love for you to check out our new monthly membership for down-to-earth entrepreneurs who are ready to create content with ease, actually show up and strategically market your business online every month, and also make friends with rad down-to-earth entrepreneurs who are just like you, who get it, who are in the posting trenches with you, and who are ever ready to give you a friendly air high five or kick in the accountability booty whenever you need it. The Feel Good Social Club is where it is at. Check it out, feelgoodsocial.com/club. In the club, we have a content library full of Canva templates and tutorials and resources to help you make content creation as easy as possible. We also have monthly content planning workshops where we all come together and talk about the upcoming month's strategy for our content. And we also have community forums where you can get together, ask questions of other club members, brainstorm ideas, ask for feedback. So definitely check it out, feelgoodsocial.com/club. Our Feel Good members are seriously some of the most amazing people that I have ever met. And I would love for you to join us, feelgoodsocial.com/club. Check it out. Join today. We would love to see you in there, my friend. Thanks so much for listening, my friend. For show notes and a whole lot of other awesome freebies, visit feelgoodsocial.com. Simply go to feelgoodsocial.com for all the goods.